How much physical training you do for your bicycle tour is probably going to depend on how physically fit you are right now. If you're incredibly out of shape, you're probably going to be doing a whole lot more work before your bike tour even begins than someone who, say, is already in pretty good shape. So if you're already participating in other activities like regular cycling or backpacking or tennis or anything that really requires like a cardio base, you're probably already in good enough shape to do a long distance bicycle tour. If, however, walking up a flight of stairs makes you winded, or you haven't really done anything athletic in years, you're going to have a whole lot more work to put in at the very beginning. Now, there's a lot of people on the internet that will tell you that you should just get out there, start riding, start small, don't do any training basically whatsoever, and just plan shorter days at the beginning of the trip and build up. And I think that's good advice for people who are moderately fit already. And maybe you're a little out of shape, but you're still kind of have an athletic build to you, right? But I think if you know that you're very out of shape, or haven't done anything like a bicycle tour ever before, I really recommend that you start training months before you even begin your bicycle trip. If, however, you are one of those people that's in peak condition, you're already riding 100 miles every Saturday or something like that, then you probably can just jump on your bike on the first day of your bike tour and go. And again, it's going to depend on the bike tour that you're planning. Like if you're planning a bike tour where you only cycle 30 miles a day, that's very different than planning a bike tour on rocky terrain where you're planning to cycle 80 miles a day, right? So it very much depends on the trip that you're planning, how much training and preparation you need to put in beforehand. The main thing that I think you can do to prepare for a long distance bike trip is to ride your bicycle as much as possible. This is so easy. It's really my main piece of advice here is that you just got to start riding your bike everywhere, whether it's to work or to school or to the supermarket or the bank, over to your friend's house or whatever. Get rid of your car and start riding your bike. Long distance bicycle touring is different than, say, bicycle racing. So you don't need to work on your sprinting or even like climbing hills all that much. What you really need to work on is spending long periods of time on your bicycle. So whenever you can, get on your bike and ride. The goal is not necessarily to go fast. The goal is not necessarily to cover a huge amount of ground. The goal is to spend a long period of time sitting on your bicycle. So that's the first thing you want to do, is you want to just start riding your bike everywhere. After you've done that for a little while, you want to start adding some weight to your bicycle. Now, we've talked about how to pack and carry things on your bike with panniers, a trailer, frame packs, whatever. And so you want to pick one of those methods, a method potentially that you are going to use on your bicycle trip. So if you're planning to ride with a trailer on your bike tour, then start pulling the trailer behind you. If you're planning to pack with panniers, then start carrying panniers on your bike. All of these things can be used for commuting. If you run to your supermarket, you can have the panniers on there and then carry your food home in the panniers, right? Same with the trailer, same with frame packs or whatever. So start carrying some weight on your bicycle. And if you don't have anything necessarily to put in the panniers, like because this is kind of like a hypothetical bike tour that you're doing around your neighborhood to train for your trip, what you can do, what I like to do, is I like to put bath towels or beach towels inside of my panniers or my bags, my frame packs, or my trailer, right? Just to fill up the bags and add a little bit of weight. So start doing that. Fill your bags up and just go for a ride as though you were on an actual bicycle tour. You aren't actually carrying camping gear and food and clothing, all that stuff that you might actually need on your bike trip, but you're carrying the weight and you have the gear packed in such a way, a similar way, as you might actually do on your bicycle tour. The third thing that you can do is start stretching on a daily basis. And I recommend stretching kind of before you get into your immediate workout. So like you want to warm up a little bit, like maybe ride for half an hour or something, and then stretch for 5 minutes, and then continue riding, right? And then also at the end of the day, after you're done riding, stop and stretch for 5 minutes. Stretch out your neck and your shoulders and your back and your legs. Your legs especially are the areas where most people are going to suffer on a bicycle tour, especially if you don't stretch. So you need to stretch out your calves and your thighs and your ankles. If you're camping, this is where a lot of people get cramps at the end of the day. So they've spent all day on the bike, they don't stretch, and then they climb inside their sleeping bag or their tent where they're kind of constricted. And that's where you can get cramps, painful cramps. So you don't want that to happen to you. And one of the ways that you can sort of prevent those cramps and other bike-related pains is by stretching. So even before your bike tour begins, you need to get into the habit of stretching. Like even if you do it just once a day before your bike tour, that's awesome. You got to build up the habit so that once you get out on the road, you can continue your daily stretching routine. So after you've done all that, you got to start thinking about climbing and carrying the weight that's going to be on your bicycle up the hills that you're sure to encounter on your bicycle tour. Now, obviously, like one of the best things that you could do to prepare for hill climbing is to actually get on your bicycle and ride some hills, especially with weight on your bicycle. So if you have hills of any kind near where you live, start spending some time there. Do it first without any weight on your bicycle, then add the weight, slowly start to add some weight until you get up to about what you're going to be carrying with you on your bicycle tour. Like I said, you can pack your bags with beach towels or other items around your home to start with, but then slowly start to replace that just fake stuff basically with the actual items that you were going to be carrying: your tent, your sleeping bag, your clothing, your toiletries, your food, or whatever. If you don't live in an area that has hills nearby that you can cycle on to train on for your bicycle tour, or maybe you don't yet have a bicycle or the gear that you are needing for your trip, but you're still wanting to sort of train for your bicycle touring adventure, one of the best things you can do is spend some time on a stair climber. This is like a machine that you could find at any local gym probably, where you basically just walk upstairs over and over and over again. And this is a good thing to train for bicycle touring and for hills because you're basically pushing your body weight uphill over and over and over again, which is the exact same thing that you're going to be doing once you get out on your bike trip and you encounter a hill of any kind. You're going to be pushing your weight, your bicycle's weight, and all of the weight of everything that you are carrying on your bike up that hill. So stair climbers are great. Another great thing that you can do to train for your bike tour is to go backpacking or to go on a multi-day hiking trip where you're carrying everything you need for your trip on your back, and then you spend some time hiking up hills or down hills or through valleys or whatever. You want to spend some time in the hills though if that's what you're training for. So that's a great way to train for a bike trip, not only because it's a cardio endeavor, like it requires some cardio strength, but it's also multi-day. Like, so if you could plan a 2 or 3 day trip to begin with, then maybe build up to a 5 or 8 day backpacking trip, that's going to be very similar to the sort of experience that you encounter on a long distance bicycle tour, right? Like the physicality of it is day after day after day after day. So if you can become competent and comfortable at multi-day backpacking, then you're going to have no problem transitioning to a multi-day bicycle touring adventure. If you're planning to camp on your bicycle touring adventure, then during the weeks that are building up to your bicycle tour, maybe 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out even, one of the best things that you can do is to start living off of your bicycle. This is a great way to train for your bike trip, not necessarily from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint. So what I mean by living off of your bicycle is that you basically do everything on your bike. You ride your bike to work, you ride your bike to school, you ride your bike to the supermarket, you ride your bike to the bank, and you carry everything on your bicycle that you are going to be carrying with you on your bicycle tour. So your clothing, your food, your toiletries, camping gear, whatever, you bring that all with you every single time you leave the house. And this is a great way to train for a bike trip, not only because you're carrying the actual weight that you're going to be carrying with you on the trip, and you're close to home. So like if you realize, if you pack in this way and then realize later, like, oh, I'm carrying this stuff and I've been carrying it on my bike for a week and I've never used it, then maybe you can just get rid of that item and you don't actually need it on your bicycle tour. Or maybe you start packing this way 2 weeks out before your bike trip and you realize that your bike is like super heavy and your camping gear, for example, is weighing you down. Then you have the time, because you've prepared yourself now 2 weeks early, to potentially get a lighter stove or a smaller stove or any other smaller or lighter items for your trip. Maybe you need to just get rid of things entirely. So living off of your bicycle for 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks before you even begin your bike trip is not only a great way to physically train for your bike tour, but to figure out which items you actually need to carry with you on your bicycle. And it's a great way to mentally prepare for what it's going to be like once you get out there on the road. And so again, like when you're living this way, like if you're camping, what you want to do is at the end of the day, like you get home, you want to set up your tent like in your living room or in your bedroom or in the yard and actually sleep out there. Sleep in the tent, sleep on the ground. If you aren't outside and you're setting up the tent inside, that's fine, but sleep on the ground so that you get used to what that's like. Because a lot of people struggle on the early days of their bicycle tours, not necessarily with the cycling because they've prepared for that, but they struggle with the camping and the sleeping aspects. So, you know, you don't want to get to the first day of your bike trip and be tired the second day because you didn't sleep at night because you've never camped in a tent before. So you want to overcome that hurdle as well long before you even get out there on the road. That's why I recommend that you live off of your bicycle for several weeks before your bike tour even begins. Again, though, I should say that this is most important for long distance bicycle tours. Like if you're planning a trip across the United States from Los Angeles to New York, this is the sort of trip that you would want to do this with. If you're planning just a 2 or 3 day bike tour near your home, you don't really need to pack and live off of your bicycle in the way that I'm describing here. Once you get out on the road, that will be test enough for you. A 2 or 3 day bike trip, it's not as important that you take this step. But for longer bike tours, you will benefit greatly if you spend some time before you even leave home by living off of your bicycle, riding your bike to work, riding your bike to school, setting your tent up at night, pulling the toiletries in and out of your bicycle each day as you need to use them, that sort of a thing. So give it a try. I think it'll benefit you greatly once you get out there on your bicycle tour. And then finally, the last thing that you can do to prepare for a long distance bike tour is to do shorter bicycle tours first. So as I've mentioned many times, you want to start out with like a weekend style tour, do a couple of those where you ride for just 2 days, ride for a day to a local campground or a hotel or a B&B, and then ride back home the following day. Another weekend, you might do a 3-day trip. So you ride Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then you want to build up to something slightly longer, maybe 5 to 8 days. After that, 10 to 14 days, right? And then 21 days or longer. So don't just necessarily jump into a 90-day bike trip or something from the very beginning. Start small and then build up. Okay guys, that's all I got to say about physically preparing for your bicycle tours. If you have any questions about anything I mentioned in this video, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.